I would like to welcome everybody to the regular council meeting for Monday, March 3rd at 6 o'clock. I'd like to call this meeting to order. We have regrets this evening from Councillor McGuire-Blaise, and Councillor Mady is joining us virtually tonight. We acknowledge that this land is the traditional territory of the Three Fires Confederacy of the First Nations, comprised of the Ojibwe, the Ottawa, and the Potawatomi peoples, and of the Huron-Wendat peoples. We value the significant historical and contemporary contributions of local and regional First Nations and of all the original peoples of Turtle Island who have been living and working on the land from time immemorial. If you are able to, please stand for our national anthem.
Our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command.
Car ton bras s'est porté l'épée, il s'est porté la croix. Ton histoire est une épopée des plus brillants exploits.
God keep our land glorious and free. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
I want to thank everybody for joining us here this evening. We do have quite a packed agenda with lots of delegations. We'll go to our closed meeting report from Director Malandrucolo for March 3rd.
Mayor Bondi, through you, council met on March 3rd, 2025 at 4 p.m. and moved into closed session pursuant to section 239(2)(f), I, and J of the Municipal Act to receive advice that was subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, and to discuss the trade secret or scientific, technical, commercial, financial, or labor relations information supplied in confidence to the municipality or local board, which, if disclosed, could reasonably be expected to prejudice significantly the competitive position or interfere significantly with the contractual or other negotiations of a person, group of persons, or organization, and to discuss a trade secret or scientific, technical, commercial, or financial information that belongs to the municipality or local board and has monetary value or potential monetary value. Council also met on March 3rd, 2025 at 5 p.m. and moved into closed session pursuant to section 239(2)(c) of the Municipal Act 2001 to discuss a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board. And that is the extent of my report.
Mr. Malandrucolo, any declarations of conflicts of interest from members of council this evening? Seeing none, if you find yourself in conflict, just to let us know. I need a mover and a seconder of the adoption of the published agenda for the regular council meeting as amended. We're going to amend a few things. That agenda item 10.5, the greenhouse bylaw with the light admissions, be moved up under our delegates, and that we move up 8.1, the union water correspondence or the water correspondence, to after Rodney Bouchard, our delegate there. And also to add a new business item, a potential new business item, that the town send a letter in support of the TELUS Tower on County Road 23 and Gosfield North. Needing a mover and Deputy Mayor Shepley, supported by Councillor Verbeek. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor of the amended? That is carried. I need a mover and a seconder of the adoption of the regular council meeting minutes for February 18th to adopt the meetings as circulated. Moved by Councillor Guerin, Councillor Hammond. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? And that is carried. Adoption of the special council meeting minutes for January 20th, the committee of the whole meeting minutes. Moved by Councillor Mady, supported by Deputy Mayor Shepley. All in favor? That is carried. Public presentations. We will go to our CEO to introduce our first delegate of this evening.
Mayor Bondi. So council, town, we invited Mr. Rodney Bouchard. He's a general manager, chief executive officer for Union Water to attend tonight. as a shareholder of Union Water that serves a large portion of Essex Center, but also there was recent restructuring where you approved a number of items in that, and also any updates. We figured it's an annual maybe occurrence to come, so we asked Mr. Bouchard to come and give us an update on where we're at with Union Water.
You have 10 minutes with council, and if you go over, let us know. We'll make a motion to extend that time. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor Bondi. So we're going to try to go through the slides a little bit quickly here because it's a larger slide deck, but just to provide a little bit of background on how we got to this point, and then provide some information on what's been going on, our capital projects that affect the town of Essex, and also the budget that was just approved here recently. So I'll go through that. So a little bit of background. So on next slide, please. A little bit of background. So in August 2022, the four municipalities of Essex, Kingsville, Lakeshore, and Leamington approved the undertaking of the adoption of the restructuring business case to restructure Union Water into a municipal service corporation. And there's a lot of activity after that. So it took us a while to get the paperwork together. February 2023, we incorporated. July 2023, we appointed the municipalities, or the shareholders appointed the interim board of directors, the officers, auditors, and we adopted all the bylaws. And then we kept moving forward. So in October 2023, the full board was appointed by the four shareholder municipalities. And then we took us a little bit of time with legal counsels from all the municipalities and ourselves to basically get to the point where we could start operating the system as a municipal service corporation, which started in January 2024 with the first approved budget. And basically the operations of the system was transferred over from the old board to the new municipal service corporation. The actual assets of the old structure were transferred in April 2024. So they were transferred from the four municipal owners to the new Municipal Service Corporation, for which Essex is a shareholder. And then we started establishing all the committees from there and had our first general meeting in July. And then in December 2024 was one of our first big tasks, was basically securing a $60 million credit facility to start moving our capital program forward. And lastly, the board of directors approved the 2025 capital and operational budget on January 29th. And I'm going to speak to that a little bit more later. So that's kind of the background information. A lot of things were done in the last year and a half. It was a very busy year. And if you want to create a joint municipal service corporation, just know that there's a lot of stuff to be done. Next slide, please. So that's basically the service area for those who don't know where we push water to. The furthest point from the plant, so you see the red dot is where the plant is. The furthest point we push is to the OPP station on Manning Road and 401. We do supply water to the municipalities of Essex, Kingsville, Lakeshore, and Leamington. And for Essex, it's basically Essex Center, and we don't supply water in the area of Harrow or Colchester. Next slide, please. These are the assets that were transferred from the municipalities, from the common system to Union Water Supply System, Inc., the Municipal Service Corporation. So these are the transmission lines you can see in red. And there's some transmission lines here in Essex Essex Center, but it also includes the four water towers. So there's the Essex Water Tower, the Kingsville Water Tower, Leamington Water Tower, and the larger, newer water tower on Albuena Town Line. Those were transferred as well. The Ruthven Water Treatment Plant in Ruthven, as long as with the low lift pumping plant on the lake, and the Cotton Booster in Cotton. So there's a reservoir there and a booster station. So those were the assets that were transferred into ownership on April 2024. Next slide, please. So the ownership and governance structure, basically, is we have four shareholder municipalities. And so the public is still owned, the system is still owned by the municipalities as a public entity. So there's no privatization in this. There were some rumors going around that we were privatizing. No, that's not what happened. Shareholder interest is based on each of the municipalities' consumption of the water, so how much water we sent to each of the municipalities. You can see the shares here. And that's based on Leamington and Kingsville have the biggest proportion because their greenhouses are there. It doesn't mean that we don't, service a lot of people in Essex. There's, over 10,000 residents or so that we provide water to. So from that perspective, it's a very important system for this area. So I don't discount the fact that you're a smaller shareholder because you're very important. The shareholder interest is updated every 4 years. And the next update is scheduled for next month, actually, March 2025. So those shareholder percentages may change a little bit. The board, next slide, please. Oh, no, right there. Okay, thank you. So the board compositions, we tried to build on the old board, which included 12 members. But back then, all the members on the board were elected officials, and we wanted to change that as part of the incorporation. We still have 12 directors. They are appointed by the municipal shareholders, and each shareholder can appoint one, but then each shareholder can appoint an additional one for every 10%. But what we tried to do is we wanted to make sure that it wasn't going to be all staff or elected officials on the board. We wanted to include some independents. So there's some stipulations that were put in place. So right now we have a board of 12. 6 are elected officials. The other 6 are independent, and those are appointed by the municipalities as well. Our independent directors include a retired water wastewater utility general manager, actually, a retired municipal engineer, a lawyer, a banker, a business owner, and a former municipal financial treasurer. So that provides us a lot of balance on how to operate the business because we have a lot of expertise on the board now. Next slide, please. So basically what changed, I'm going to get through this pretty quickly. What didn't change, what did change? What didn't change is that the system is still owned by the municipalities, just not directly, but as shareholders. It's still a publicly owned system. And the board is still 12 members, but now we have an independence aspect to it. The rate structure, the underlying rate structure for the bulk rate that we sent to the municipality is the same for the 4 municipalities. That didn't change. So each of the municipalities pay the same bulk treatment rate. There's no preferential rates from one municipality to the other. All the profits are reinvested. There's no dividends, even though we have a dividend policy. The policy says that there's no dividend. So we reinvest all the profits back into the corporation. So this is not about raising water rates and giving shareholders, dividends to that effect. And it's not source to tap. The 4 municipalities still own their own distribution system, and they remain responsible for that. We just send water through that system, and we treat it and transmit it. Some of the bigger changes is that the board of directors is more independent. So we have some expertise on the board. It's more independent, and that expertise has been very helpful over the last year. And now we can apply for grants. We haven't been successful yet because there's no grants that have specifically directed towards us, but we're still working at it, and we're pretty confident that we're going to get some grants here shortly. The biggest change is that we can borrow on our own now, and the money that we borrow doesn't reflect on the municipal book. So you are not responsible for the debt. We are. So whatever we borrow, we're responsible for it. And another bigger change is that now every customer that we send water to in the municipality sees our portion of the rate structure on their bill. So if the water you receive in your municipality is from Union Water, you'll see a Union Water treatment transmission charge on your bill. So that gives us direct connection. We had to have that direct connection with the customers just so we could keep the debt off the municipal books. Now we also bear some of the responsibility for water losses, which we didn't have to do before. That was all borne by the municipalities. Now we have water losses. So any water loss for water main breaks, fire flow flushing, whatever. So we bear some of that cost because you still got to pay to treat the water. It costs money to treat the water. So we bear some of those losses as well, and that gets reflected in our rate increases. And we pay a service to each of the 4 municipalities to basically do the billing on our behalf and collect the revenue on our behalf. So we pay for those services. So you don't do that for us for free. Next slide, please. So what's been accomplished to date? There's been a lot of things accomplished to date. So we started from approval of the general bylaw right at the beginning to implementing various board policies, delegated authority policy, a dividend policy, procurement policy. We also appointed Baker Tilly as our auditor. We selected a banking institution. We transferred all the funds over there, set up reserves, and we retained a local financial consultant to provide us with virtual CFO services. We didn't feel that it was necessary to hire a CFO for our organization. It's pretty small. So we went out and found somebody that could provide those services for us. And they've been working very closely with us and the municipalities as well when we have meetings together. That's been really helpful for us. We developed billing and revenue recovery procedures between us and the four municipal shareholders, and we keep meeting during the year, a couple times during the year, to make sure that we work closely, that the municipalities are aware of what we're doing, and that the billing and recovery aspects are there, and that right now we're working on our year end, so we're going to have to work with the municipal treasurers closely to make sure that it's reflected accordingly on our side and the municipal side. But what it did, the other thing that it provided is that we could start hiring staff directly. Before, we couldn't hire staff directly. We didn't have any employees technically. So now we can. So we've hired some staff directly already, a project manager, HR person, a payroll coordinator, because we had to develop all our own plans. Are we there already? Oh, didn't realize we were there already.
Sandra?
Wow. Okay. Sorry.
Okay, keep going, Rodney, there.
I'll get through. So those are all the things that we did. Next, if you can, that's okay. Sorry about that. That was a quick 10 minutes. So I'll just I'll speak before the slides are up there. But so we have a lot of projects right now, which we want to reflect. We basically have a capital program that's roughly about $200 million for the next less than 10 years. And it includes a lot of projects that ensure that the water is transmitted to the municipalities and treated to us. Madam Mayor, is it okay to keep going? Okay.
I'm just going to seek a motion that we extend for 5 minutes. Deputy Mayor, Councillor Verbeek, all in favor? Thank you. It's important information. We all take water quality for granted. So
Thank you, Mayor Bondi. So we do have, like I said, a lot of projects moving forward. And we have a $50 million reservoir that's moving forward right now. We're breaking ground next month. We have a lot of clarification projects, a lot of treatment projects. So there's a lot of activity that's happening in the next few years. We also have a project that we're working with, an environmental assessment that we're working with Windsor Utilities for water security. So basically ensuring that if our system were to go down, that we can get water from Windsor Utilities, and if their system were to go down, we can share water to them. So that's in the environmental assessment stage right now. But one of the bigger projects coming up is a water treatment plant expansion. Right now, we have a moratorium in place, not for residential development, but for any large, any greenhouses or any other large industrial projects, because we're basically at capacity for water treatment. That project's, the design for that's going to start this year. And we hope that it'll be built in providing new water by late 2027, early 2028. So that's a sizable project as well. We're looking at over $65 million for that. And there's roughly another 40 some million dollars worth of projects that we need to do. Water main replacements, some old ones. So the planned projects right there. Next slide, please. A little bit of background. So as you can see, our water demands in the last 10 years has increased significantly, 49%. We've hit a limit, so we need to expand our treatment plant to accommodate for that. Next slide, please. That just shows where we are towards the latter end. So the black line shows where our 80% capacity of the treatment plant is. Once you start hitting 80%, you got to start thinking about expanding, which is where we are. That's why we're doing the work that we're doing. Next slide, please. This gets us into the budget. So this year we presented a budget to the board for approval, which included some significant increases in some of the rates to accommodate those capital projects. And that this detail provides that. Basically, there's for our water rate in 2024, our water rate was 73 cents or 0.7339 per cubic meter. And we asked for an increase of 0.0428 to accommodate for CPI. Our chemical costs have doubled in the last year. So we had to basically accommodate that. Our operations contract basically increased significantly. But we also, so those were that rate that we needed to increase. And that also accounts for some of the water loss that we now bear responsibility for. We also requested a 2-cent increase per cubic meter to help fund the capital renewal program. We don't do development charges. We've never been able to, so we have to recover that's basically those costs somewhere. So that's included there. And then we added a special category where we're going to start asking the greenhouse, so the agricultural sector, specifically the greenhouse infrastructure, to pay into the system a bit more. So there's a special rate there, capital levy of 1 cent per cubic meter to start this year, and to start funding more money to pay for these capital expansions. And that's year 1 of year 3 where we're going to ask those rates to be increased.
That was really good. I just talked to our CAO. What we will do is we will put a copy of this slideshow on our water section on our website. So if people want to easily find it, they can. Any questions from members of council this evening? Deputy Mayor Shepley.
Through you, Madam Mayor. First of all, I love it that you've attached a special price for the greenhouse growers as they're our biggest prolificator of our water use. What I'm wondering is, based on where it's at now, our ability to grow would stop our ability to grow if we don't have these expansions that you're pursuing right now, based on how I'm reading through that. That's correct?
Bondi, right now, there's still some capacity reserved for residential developments for the 4 municipalities. So we did reserve that capacity to make sure that residential developments could occur. But after 5 years from now, there would be we would start running out of capacity for that. So that's why we need to do the expansions, yes.
All right. And then my other question was, and I'm sure it's probably obvious, was based on the amount of greenhouses we're seeing coming up on 77 and everywhere else, that would be why that we're hit that 80% mark where we're at right now so soon.
Mayor Bondi, we from 2015, basically 2013 to 2020, there was a large, increase in greenhouse growth. We have no way of stopping the growth. We just have to supply the service. So that basically brought us up to that limit quickly. So we put a moratorium, or the board at the time put a moratorium in place to not allow any new greenhouse developments starting in 2021. So there hasn't been any new ones approved since then. And once we have expansions in place, then we'll have to work with the shareholders to figure out where that water is going to go.
Councillor Hammond, then Councillor Guerin.
To you, Mary. Rodney, when you're saying moratorium, is it are we at capacity as far as producing drinkable water or actually delivering it? Or is it a combination of both?
Mayor Bondi, so we only are responsible for treatment of the water and the capacity and transmission. So any delivery capacity, that's up to the municipalities where the greenhouses are. So we have no control over that. So ours is the treatment aspect. So we need to increase our treatment capacity to lift the moratorium.
So the reservoir helps alleviate?
Mayor Bondi, yes, the reservoir we are actually short on reservoir capacity. We have been for quite a few years, and it helps us alleviate the daytime peaks during the summer where when it gets really hot, I mean, we can't produce water fast enough. It goes out the pipes too fast. So now we have that reservoir we will have that reservoir that'll help us manage that.
One more question. Is this moratorium affecting housing developments?
Mayor Bondi, no, it doesn't. Right now, we reserve capacity for the 4 municipalities to do residential development.
Thank you, through the mayor. Rodney, on the 10 years, 49% water demand growth, do you have projections of what it's going to be for the next 10 years?
Through Mayor Bondi, we work with the municipalities to basically get your growth plans. So whatever you have for your master plans, we get that information. We did do an infrastructure review, basically a modified master plan for our infrastructure a couple years ago, and that was based on municipal data. So we take that data in to figure out where that's going to go into the future. So we work closely with the municipalities to make sure that we accommodate the demands.
further that, on that 49% 10-year water growth, greenhouse versus other, is it like ballpark figure percentage-wise, 90-10?
Through Mayor Bondi, I would say it's, yeah, roughly around probably 80-20, 85-15, somewhere around there.
From members of council? I want to thank you for coming. I just want to also note that Union Water, if folks want to follow Union Water meetings, how would they do that, please?
Thank you, Mayor Bondi. So we have meetings well, now we're going to switch to every 2 months. We'll have usually the third Wednesday of every second month. So we're going to post it. We have a website, unionwater.ca. Just go on the website and you can see it where all our information is. We post everything on there. So our financial information, everything. And the meeting schedule is there as well. And we try to share that with the clerks as well. So then we welcome anybody to attend. And just to add to that, Mayor Bondi, is if anybody's interested in a tour, we always welcome tours and we'd be glad to do that.
Personal tour one day and it was great. So looking for a mover and a seconder that the presentation by Rodney Bouchard, General Manager and Chief Executive Officer from Union Water be received. Councillor Hammond, Deputy Mayor Shepley, all in favor. And that is carried. And looking for a mover and a seconder that 13.1.1, the UWSS water report be received. And we can ask questions on that if you have further questions. Deputy Mayor Shepley? Moved by, it's a water related report. That's why we're going to move it up while Rodney's here. So if you have questions. Supported by Councillor Verbeek. Any questions? It's just an annual report. All in favor? Opposed? None? That's carried. Thank you. Thank you for your time. Looking to welcome our next set of delegations. We have Derek Roy, Manager of Supports overseeing Career Compass. Welcome, Derek. You have 5 minutes to address council. If you need more, just let us know. And we'll pull up your presentation.
Thank you, Mayor Bondi. So I do want to acknowledge, I recognize a few faces here from our annual golf tournament. So I'd like to say thank you for your ongoing support. We hope to see you in July this year as well. So next slide, please. So I'd like to start off by talking a little bit about Community Living Essex County. I'm sure many people in the room are familiar with us. We are an organization that was incorporated in 1961, celebrating our 64th year. We are an organization that works specifically with people and families in Essex County. People we work with have an intellectual disability, and we are the largest nonprofit employer in Windsor-Essex County with over 700 employees, making us a rather large economic driver. We currently support over 700 children, youth, and adults. And across Essex County, we own 54 properties, lease 7, and we do have 11 properties here in Essex. Next slide, please. So Career Compass, this is really what I want to talk about today. So Career Compass is the name of our organization's employment services. So in a nutshell, we try to match people to jobs in their communities. So the team gets out into the business community, builds relationships, and does what they can to be matchmakers between the job seekers that we work with and the employment opportunities available in their community. I should also mention that we were previously an ODSP employment support provider. We are now under the Windsor Regional Employment Network as an Employment Ontario service provider. So backing up to what we do, building relationships with employers and communities, really what we're looking to do is find a way to work together, find a way where we can help business leaders create some efficiencies in their businesses. An example I really like to use is in the past, we had a young man that worked at a dealership. He's since moved on to another position successfully, but at the beginning, when he first came to us, we found him a job at a dealership where this business was looking for somebody who had a driver's license, and rather than having the mechanics at the dealership go through the car wash and have the car ready for pickup, this young man did that, freeing up the mechanics to focus on what they do best and what they have specialized skills for. So that's an example of the kind of opportunities that we look for when we work with folks in our business community. Next slide, please. So Career Compass, we've got a couple ways that we get to know job seekers. One of them is Job Path. I'm not going to spend too much time on Job Path. I will say that in recent years, we have been working with local educators and high schools to get to know students earlier, get to know them better, and that really leads into Youth in Action. So with job developing, we're looking for commitments from employers, right, to hire on somebody permanently. With Youth in Action, we're looking for summer jobs. So it's a short-term commitment. And next slide, please. I'm going to talk a little bit about Youth in Action here. So the summer program is based on trying to find people a summer job for 6 weeks. So our commitment is pairing each youth in the program with a student job coach. Our organization will hire on a student job coach, work alongside them the entire summer from July to August, ensuring that the work and expectations, duties are all carried out. Our minimum ask for employers is 4 hours a week for 6 weeks. Next slide, please. So these are a few examples of employers that were part of Youth in Action last year. So Chuck's Roadhouse here in Essex was one of those employers. The team does a great job of trying to find businesses from across the county, a variety of sectors and different opportunities. And then we'll take those opportunities back and match them to youth in the community. I do want to point out Lakeshore here, the town of Lakeshore. They've been fantastic the last few years. They have hired several students to be part of Youth in Action. So they've had several students for 6 weeks for summer jobs and are committed to working with us this summer as well. Next slide, please. So along with being part of Youth in Action, they have hired on some folks permanently as well. So we've also got the city of Windsor who have hired people on permanently, the town of Amherstburg, and the town of Leamington. So when someone's hired on permanently, it's similar to Youth in Action, where we'll have a job coach go in, work alongside that person. But the goal with the permanent position is to have that person ultimately working independently. So we'll phase out that job coaching so that they're completely responsible for their work on their own. It's not to say we don't provide retention supports. We're going to check in with that person. We're going to check in with the employer. We're going to check in and make sure everything's going successfully. We want to make sure it's a positive experience, not just for the job seeker that's working there, but also for the business. Yep.
At a time. So
Okay.
I know you have a specific request, so.
I do. Perfect. Thank you. All right. So our request, hire through Career Compass. We really want to work with the town of Essex. We really want to be able to say that we're working with you through Youth in Action, summer jobs, but also permanent positions and different departments. We're also looking to, the town of Essex to be community leaders, right? Business communities will look to the municipality who are setting an example. So I think there are many ways that we can work together. We have some really skilled job seekers that we're connected to, and would love to have further conversation.
Questions, comments from members of council this evening? Deputy Mayor Shefley? I just want to also say that we have Brandy Sieben, Manager of HR, in the room to answer council's questions as well. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. We have a young man that works for us that fits the bill, and we do 20 hours a week with him. So I think this is fantastic, and the reward that he receives from it and we receive from it, it's pretty awesome. So it chokes me up whenever I talk about it because it's pretty inspirational to see. And I'm wondering if there's any way we could ask the town to maybe bring us back a report of some way that they could, where this could possibly fit in with the town or something to that nature, if that was a possibility.
Council, if that's a direction as council as whole, we can come back with a report. We can work with Brandy and the departments, work with Derek and Tammy and get something back to to council, if that's a motion.
Okay, Counselor Meady. Oh,
Same, Madam Mayor, I'll make that motion when it's appropriate.
Counselor Meady.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. I couldn't agree with the Deputy Mayor more that this is a great service. And with making a motion, I would definitely support it. Maybe I could even help craft a little bit of it if the Deputy Mayor is willing. Seeing as how the community living in Essex County, they 700 individuals, 700 staff, and that's amazing. Their Career Compass program provides employment opportunities for individuals of all abilities. Excuse me, sorry about that. I'll try not to do that again. I would like to maybe make a motion that we explore the hiring opportunities through Career Campus, that we identify ways to participate in the Youth Action Summer Work Experience Program, that we demonstrate the community leadership, hiring these inclusive practices, and that, of course, administration comes back with the report and the recommendations on how the municipality can support these initiatives.
Okay, thank you, Counselor Meady. Can we add a friendly amendment that we received the presentation as well? He's not, yeah, I think, is that okay?
Yes, sorry about that. Yes, please.
Okay. That's moved by Counselor Meady, supported by Deputy Mayor Shepley. And the wording of the motion, maybe you could send it to our clerks in case they missed a few things. Anybody wish to comment on the motion? Counselor Verbeek.
Deputy Mayor and Councillor Meady, through the mayor, I support the motion 100%. I was going to suggest that we kick this to administration and see how we could work with this, with Derek and team, because I have a personal, I think it's really important that we partner with them through the town. They helped my son for 3 years. He used this program, the Youth in Action, the Career Compass. They were able to set him up with jobs through Armando's one summer, which he loved, and the Access Community Garden out. And he not only, he gained a lot of respect for himself, he learned a lot, and it set him on a good path. It helped. It helped in his development. It was a godsend to our family and to him. And I could see it being very beneficial to our town. And as you pointed out, Derek, it would show the leadership, and it might open up some more opportunities, some more businesses that could see this is an okay option. This is a good option, and do like Ice Cool Treats did and take one of these people on and find out it, So I support the motion, and I would have made it myself if you guys hadn't jumped on it. So thank you.
Council wish to further speak to the motion? I believe Councilor Meady's already sent it to us. So the motion is, whereas Community Living Essex County is the largest development service sector provider in the West Region, supporting over 700 individuals, employing 700 staff, whereas Community Living Career Compass program provides employment opportunities for individuals of all abilities and promotes inclusive hiring practices. And whereas the municipality has had an opportunity to demonstrate leadership in inclusive employment and workforce development, therefore it be resolved that the presentation be received and administration be directed to develop a plan to fulfill CLEC's request by exploring hiring opportunities through Career Compass, identifying ways to participate in Youth in Action Summer Work Experience Program, and demonstrate community leadership and inclusive hiring practices. Therefore, it be resolved that administration report back with recommendations how the municipality can support these initiatives. And that was moved by Councilor Meady, supported by Deputy Mayor Shepley. All in favor, unless anybody has any other questions. All in favor? And seeing that is carried unanimously. So thank you for coming. Thank you. And now we have 2 more delegations. We have Mr. Bill Jamieson. Please go back to the delegation table, sir, and turn on your mic, and you have 5 minutes to address council.
Good evening, Your Worship, Mayor Bondi, council members, members of administration and staff. I'm not sure if you can hear me or not. I'm losing my voice a bit. You can, okay. I sent in 2 reports, and I'm not sure whether the reports will be received and read into the minutes of the meeting. Doesn't happen? No? Okay. Yeah, so I have to thank Joe Malandrocolo for providing those to all the council members. Thank you, Joe. I'm just going to read through quickly. You have copies, and some of it is duplicates. So anyhow, this report is for information purposes and does not aim to disparage anyone, including Essex Council staff, any organizations or persons. Rather, is a gathering of information and facts concerning the causes and effects of greenhouse light pollution acquired by 10 years of research, observations, and involvement with other local governments. So the recommendation is to defer the provisional adoption of bylaw 2211 to allow time for additional consultation and comments by the general public by way of a public survey. Also, this term of council includes 3 new members who were not present for the first presentation of the bylaw in 2022 and might not have had time to fully research the issue. The other recommendation is to use the Kingsville No Light Emissions Bylaw 96-2020 as a pattern for the Essex version. Also, Essex could strike a committee to investigate the enactment of an overall illumination control bylaw in good faith, thereby setting the example of best lighting practices, working lockstep with potential greenhouse developers. So just a bit on the effects of light pollution. Light pollution from the use of supplemental greenhouse lighting is more than just a nuisance. Any artificial light at night is a hazard to the health of diurnal and nocturnal mammals, birds, amphibians, fish, insects, and plants, including those grown in the greenhouses. The most important is harmful to humans. Artificial light at night disrupts circadian rhythms, including all of the above. Periods of light and darkness are necessary to support all forms of life. The American Medical Association and others have identified the disruption of circadian rhythms as a direct link to breast and prostate cancers, diabetes, and other medical conditions. By permitting periods of artificial light at night for greenhouse operators, this legislation, bylaw 2211, is compounding existing present and undesirable lighting conditions in our municipalities. Permitting additional light in the nighttime environment is a step backwards in preserving darkness for all of nature. So the effects of bylaw 2211 as currently written. This bylaw endorses the wishes of the Ontario vegetable greenhouse growers to establish guidelines for their membership without due consideration of the effects on the residents of Essex and the surrounding municipalities. In short, this bylaw dictates to all residents when they may sleep under normal dark sky conditions. Residents are allowed natural nighttime darkness from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. only. Additionally, even if full compliance is achieved, the light cast by allowing 10% curtain opening is cast far and wide, depending on atmospheric conditions such as type of cloud cover, fog, and atmospheric particles. And therefore, this light is not restricted to property in the vicinity of greenhouses as written into the bylaw. As an example, I reside 8 kilometers from the greenhouse operation in Kingsville, and I'm awakened many nights by light entering my bedroom windows, even though blackout blinds are installed.
Say we need to wrap it up.
Okay. Okay. Okay, I have, in my reports, I've added some links to further information, for further reading. I understand this provisional reading tonight. And we've allowed 2 weeks for the final, to arrive at the final reading. I just question whether 2 weeks is enough time for everyone to really get a handle on what's happening. And how this bylaw will affect your residents and the residents in the surrounding municipalities. Yeah, just quick,
Okay,
just,
10 seconds.
I'll just quickly add it up. Okay, so the issue of enforcement. What, sorry, missed it here. I'll just summarize. When it comes to enforcement, we've seen what happened in Leamington and we've seen what happens in Kingsville. When you allow curtains to be open at night, doesn't matter 10%, 5%, 50%, bylaw enforcement officer has no ability to measure that or comprehend how wide the gap is in the greenhouse ceiling curtains. So that's what's happened with Leamington. It's caused conflicts between the growers and the and bylaw citizens. There's still many complaints going into Leamington. There's complaints in Kingsville, even though we have a no light policy. So
Thank
Anyhow,
you, Bill.
close
And
up.
hang around. We have another delegation and then we have a presentation of the report. So don't go away because council may still have questions for you. I would like to welcome up Star. Is it Livington or Livingston? Okay, Livingstone. Okay, welcome. And you will also have 5 minutes to address council. When I start waving my hand, Lisa, that means you're like at 30 seconds. Develop some code here. I try not to be rude or anything. So welcome.
Thank you, Mayor Bondi and council members. My name is Star Livingstone. I'm a member of Royal Astronomical Society of Canada. I'm the Light Pollution Abatement Officer and Director of Public Education for RASC Windsor. My first concern is the economic impact on large scale greenhouses in the area. Do they actually increase any income to the county? I understand that taxes are the same as a cornfield, so I don't see much advantage in a greenhouse as far as tax revenue for the area. That's something I think you probably had done studies on this, but I don't know. It is known that they create unusual stress on the infrastructure of the area, hydropower, in particular water levels and wastewater management. We've already had a report on the water situation. They use up a lot of water and it's going to put more stress on the whole water supply. Good that they're asking for more money from the greenhouses to step up. My second point, in addressing greenhouse light pollution, the Minister of Agriculture for Ontario has a document called Best Management Practices Managing Nighttime Greenhouse Light Emissions, which is full of mistakes regarding sky quality measurements. And basically, they founded this with the Ontario Vegetable Greenhouse Growers Association. So you're asking the greenhouse guys if this is good, right? And they're going to say, yeah, of course it's good because we want to grow tomatoes, right? We don't want any light pollution bylaw affecting our operation. So this is where you get into conflict. Are you telling the greenhouse business how to run their operation by creating a bylaw? Well, partially if you put a 10% curtain restriction. You are telling them to a certain degree what they can do and what they can't do. They also, in that report, they have a meter readings for a sky quality meter, sorry, SQM as it's known. And the study that this report was based on had a lot to do with this little meter that they use to predict the sky quality. Well, the 1 or 2 decimal places on this meter is a huge difference in the quality of the sky. So in the report, they kind of blow through that and make it look like, oh, it doesn't affect it much. Well, it does. Anyway, 3, other countries, for example, the Netherlands require 98% coverage of greenhouse lighting to protect the environment. This is, you probably all heard about this. Actually, Hilda McDonald went to the Netherlands and saw this in action. There is the ability to do 98% covering, but it's just a pushback from the large corporation greenhouses that want to allow 10% because that makes it easy for everybody, according to them. So they just want it easy. They don't want to have to do adding extra fans, extra stuff for ventilation and all kinds of things. They come up with all kinds of excuses. I'm saying, you know, excuses are excuses. They're just using those excuses. So, point number 4, no consideration has been given about migratory birds over the area. Over 70% of the migratory birds that pass through this area do so at night, and most of them are small songbirds. So there's nothing in this study about bird migration. I think we should be concerned about that. I've actually consulted with the bridge, Gordie Howe Bridge Corporation, whatever it's called, not corporation, but anyway, they did a major study on bird migration regarding the bridge because they didn't want collisions of birds running into the bridge, and also light into the water about the sturgeon fish and a bunch of stuff. They did an extensive study, so nothing has been studied on this. Nothing. So if your light pollution is 10%, is still a lot of light pollution. So if you have a 50-acre greenhouse, okay, you're going to get light pollution from basically 5 acres of unprotected lighting. Okay, to wrap it up here, I recommend that Essex look at our general lighting bylaw, and having one in place for responsible lighting will help change the whole lighting situation. We have an observatory near Comber, and it's been greatly affected by light pollution from the greenhouses. Anyway, thank you.
Hey, take a seat and don't go anywhere. We're going to go to Director Malandrucolo to walk us through the report that we moved up earlier. So if you have your agenda on you, we're bringing up 10.5 right now, Greenhouse Light Abatement Bylaw.
Mayor Bondi, through you. I want to thank the delegates for coming out today. What I'll do is I'll go through my report and the rationale for the report, and then I'll touch on some things that the delegates brought up. The first thing that I want to introduce to council is that this report is a return of a bylaw that was brought in December of 2022. The bylaw that was brought in December of 2022 called for 100% light abatement during the hours of 5 o'clock in the evening and 8 o'clock a.m. The reason why the 2022 bylaw only received 2 readings and didn't come back for a final reading was because during that time, the municipality of Leamington's bylaw was very similar and was challenged successfully. When Leamington's bylaw was challenged, the reason why it was challenged is because it was found to be too restrictive. So what council's direction at that time was to go back and revisit the bylaw and determine how we could create a bylaw in a way that would be enforceable and not be challenged as being too restrictive. So what you're seeing in front of you today is our response to that challenge. So what we're bringing to you is we're bringing a bylaw that we believe allows for us to require an abatement of light in a way that the greenhouses can't challenge in the future successfully. The proposals that are being brought forward to you by the delegates are similar to the bylaw that we brought first in 2022. The problem with a bylaw like that is it's so restrictive that if it is challenged, it'll be successfully challenged. So if you have a bylaw that restricts 100% light emissions and it's challenged by a greenhouse, you'll find that that bylaw will be successfully challenged to a court and it'll have to be rewritten. The bylaw that the delegates spoke about in Kingsville, it's a nuisance bylaw. And it doesn't actually prohibit 100% light emissions. What it says is that if a bylaw officer arrives at the greenhouse and they determine that the light is a nuisance, they can issue a fine. That leaves a discretion to the bylaw officer. So if Kingsville is employing that bylaw in a way where they're not allowing any emissions, then that's at the discretion of the bylaw officer. We previously had a bylaw like that. That was our noise abatement bylaw. You'll see that bylaw coming back to council because we were challenged on that bylaw and that challenge was successful. We were unable to uphold the fines that we issued under that bylaw. And so we're coming back with more specific measures that are not as arbitrary as a bylaw officer determining subjectively whether or not that is a nuisance. So as was described, from 5 o'clock till 10 o'clock at night, the Town of Essex bylaw proposes that there are 90% light emissions. To enforce that, our bylaw officers, I suggest, can require that the greenhouses explain to them why if a bylaw officer feels like there's less than 90% coverage on the emissions, that the greenhouse provide to the bylaw officer their evidence that they're actually covering 90% of the area of the windows. I believe that that's the way that we can cover the 5 o'clock to 10 p.m. period and then the 2 a.m. to 8 a.m. period. Alternatively, in the report, we focus on the fact that from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m., there's 100% coverage of the light. By bringing an enforceable bylaw that we could actually use and require greenhouses to abide by, we are actually going to allow us to maintain that 100% emissions prohibition from 10 a.m. to 2 a.m., which the Kingsville bylaw, if challenged, can't even do. So we have a more enforceable bylaw because we're allowing the 10% emissions during some period of time. Besides that, we are dealing with 4 greenhouses in Kingsville. In Essex. They're much smaller than the greenhouses in Kingsville, and the town currently doesn't have the infrastructure to allow for more 4 greenhouses. So by implementing a more prohibitive bylaw, you're penalizing the 4 smaller greenhouses that exist, and you're, for the reasons of possibly other greenhouses coming in and creating additional emission. So the bylaw that's in front of you today is trying to balance the interests of the environment, the residents, and the greenhouse owners.
Deputy Mayor Shefley.
I have a couple questions. So in the 10% time, we don't have a way of measuring. We're going to ask them to provide proof that they're not. That's kind of like asking me if I'm speeding. I'm going to say no. I don't know what measurement we're going to, you know what I mean? If a police officer pulls me over and says, "Were you speeding?" I'm not going to say, "Sure, write me a ticket." I don't know how we're going to prove that they're within the 10% based on if they're providing that material. So that's one issue that I have. I know Kingsville's handed out several fines with theirs currently, and they haven't been challenged. So I wonder if maybe I would prefer to go that route until we got challenged at least, but I mean, that's my opinion. Probably not I don't know how that would be with the rest of council. The other one would be, with the current ones, whatever we do, I'm sure we're gonna allow some time for them to, abide by the bylaw, where it's gonna be hammered down day one. So they would have time to meet the compliance, of whatever bylaw we do pass at that point. But I just wondered what measure how are we gonna measure that? Because were we just gonna take their word for it?
So through the chair, we had our fill bylaw come about 3 months ago, and our chief building official said that he could look at a pile of dirt and tell you exactly the amount of dirt in that pile of dirt. In practice, if our bylaw official, same thing with the Kingsville bylaw official who is issuing a nuisance fine. If we determine that it's 90%, it's less than 90% covered or more than 10% emissions, our bylaw officer will issue that fine, just like the Kingsville bylaw officer will issue a fine saying that's a nuisance. It's up to the greenhouse to challenge that. And so if the Kingsville bylaw is being challenged that it's not a nuisance, then they would have to provide their evidence of why it's not a nuisance, and there'd be some sort of determination, and they would determine whether or not it was a nuisance. If a greenhouse in Essex was issued a fine that they weren't covering at least 90% of the emissions, and they were challenging that fine, then they would have to prove to us that they were actually covering 90% of the light.
I have a better understanding of it. So, no, I forgot what I was going to ask you. Based on our other bylaw that's coming, that you've compared it to, that one has a way of measuring that. That was why I was saying they're not quite the same. One we can definitely go out and we're providing that instrument for them to measure. This one there's no measurement other than what they'll have to provide that answer to us. Okay, thank you.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I have several comments. I have some questions. I have a question for first delegate. I guess I'll start with Director Malandrucolo. You suggest that this bylaw can have this much coverage from 10 till 2, and then at 2 they can have 100% coverage. So if they have the ability to give 100% coverage, then why wouldn't we ask that of them from 8 o'clock on or 5 o'clock on? Also, I get that we're dealing with 4 already. We have 4. That's another animal where I'm hearing because of water, because of hydro, because of capacity, we won't be getting any more new greenhouses in the near future. I've seen on a number of other cases for other things, sewage capacity, whatnot, that there are workarounds. So we could have an operator in the near future wanting to put in a greenhouse and some workarounds being found. So I think we need to get on this now. And I guess this part would be to perhaps Director Chadwick, if we put a bylaw in place that says 100% coverage during nighttime to save our night sky, you're going to be working with them we're not in silos here. You're going to be working with them right from the onset. Can't you ensure that they have the capacity to provide that coverage before they put shovels in the ground? So we're not going to be burdening our already taxed bylaw department if we put this stuff in place now ahead of ahead of things, so that when they get to that build, I guess those were my questions for each director, but I also had one for the first delegate, and I forget his name. Bill, you made some comments that were very intriguing, and I apologize. I did not get any report from you, and I may have, but you'd have to resend it because I can't find it. You mentioned disruptions to nocturnal critters, and you mentioned links to cancer from sleep disruptions. I can tell you when my grandkids sleep over, the light in the hall wakes me up 100 times. So, but I just wonder, do you have, what sources do you have this information? Because you went through that very quickly, and it was interesting information, but I haven't read it.
Yeah.
We'll have Bill respond, and then Director Malandrucolo will respond. And Councilor Verbeek, I did send it to you. It came today, but in a series of a whole bunch of other emails. This is a busy day. Mr. Jameson?
Yeah, through you, Mayor Bondi. I believe Mr. Malandrucolo sent copies of my reports to everyone. Within the reports, on the last page, there's references. So there's links to the medical information you asked about, Councillor Verbeek. Other than that, I'm not going to elaborate on it. We'd be here for 2 days. Yeah, if I might comment on the greenhouse sizes, I think in 2022, one of the councillors brought up the issue of what if it's a small greenhouse and it's only 1 acre in size? So that's if we don't include all greenhouses in this legislation, you're going to have a problem because one greenhouse of 1 acre in size will create the same amount of sky glow as a 10-acre greenhouse operation with 10% opening.
Turn off the camera there, and Director Malandroukolo.
Chair, Councilor Verbeek, those are excellent questions, and they are questions that we were able to get information on and put our minds to. The reason for the variation in the restrictions is because the humidity and temperature in the greenhouses rise when they're covered, and the only way to deal with that is by introducing ventilation systems and other cooling systems that are cost prohibitive for the smaller greenhouse owners. And so when Leamington implemented their bylaw, the challenge came that the bylaw would actually cause some of the smaller greenhouses to go out of business. Even some of the bigger greenhouses with smaller margins, that it would be cost prohibitive for them, and it could cause them to go out of business. So the challenge actually led to a settlement. And the reason for that is because Leamington knew that their bylaw was going to be unenforceable. And so the settlement, the whole purpose of the settlement was to allow for a way that the emissions could be controlled, that there could be a balance between benefiting the environment, but also not being so cost prohibitive as to ruin the smaller greenhouses from being able to operate within the municipality.
That explanation. So my understanding is that this bylaw that came into effect long after many of the greenhouses were built, we're looking at adopting the same as Leamington. We just have to look to Leamington to know we don't want our night sky to look like that. So we're in a different situation. We're not trying to bring a light bylaw to fix some mistakes we've already made. We haven't made them yet. We're right here. We could if we adopt this as written. I'm sorry. I know you worked on it. I'm clearly not supporting anything less than 100% coverage because I'm a big night sky fan. And 2 in the morning, if I have to wait till then to go watch my stars, that's my downtime.
Chair, I can't speak for what's happening in Leamington, but being able to police the amount of greenhouses that Leamington has opposed to the amount of greenhouses that we have is a much different effort. The other thing that I want to mention is passing a bylaw that is challengeable or unenforceable costs the town money. It leads to legal challenges. It leads to having to retain external counsel. It leads to having to conduct external research in order to fight challenges, and it leads to having to write off fines that would otherwise be revenue for the town. So it's not, I mean, from administration's perspective, having a bylaw that's enforceable, that we can use to actually penalize people for doing something, is much more beneficial for the town than having a bylaw that can't be enforced and that we have to fight challenges on and spend resources and money to try and enforce.
So I guess back to the original question to Director Chadwick about that, don't we have the ability to insist before they build them that they put these measures in place? We know the measures exist. They might have to spend a little more at the original build, but we won't have to send bylaw out because they won't be able to if they've already got all the measures in place prior to building. There's not going to be challenges if they've built the infrastructure to meet our bylaw.
Madam Mayor, to Councillor Verbeek, it all begins with site plan control. So in development services, the town of Essex has implemented policies in our official plan that mandate that greenhouses are subject to site plan control anywhere throughout the municipality. So it does begin with informing and educating our greenhouse builders, we'll say the new greenhouse builders. They would receive the information well in advance before a shovel ever gets, ready to be in the ground. It would be at that point, essentially discussions between the developer and what we call the development review team. It will include collaboration with legal and legislative services, as well as planning and building. So it's on the onset. If I may, we could also pass the floor to Director Malandruco to discuss the compliance request if required, if there is some sort of accommodation that is in the bylaw and written in the bylaw as a form of accommodation if necessary, or if requested, I should say.
Chair, there is an ability to ask for a alternative compliance plan, but that's actually in the bylaw because as part of the settlement that Leamington negotiated, it's actually to relax those time periods even further. Because again, the cost prohibitiveness of trying to completely prohibit emissions throughout the night is too much for most of the greenhouses. So what Director Chadwick spoke about with new greenhouses being built, it doesn't address current greenhouses that are in our area because they're already here and they're already set up in a certain way. And they're smaller greenhouses that would have to incur costs that they may not be able to sustain. Also, it doesn't speak to the fact that even during the building process, in order to implement those systems that allow for this to happen, it creates a cost prohibitiveness that will stop greenhouses from coming here.
Council, we have Councillor Hammond and Councillor Guerin.
Yeah, feeling like I'm between a rock and a hard place here. I got people in town crying for more light, people out in the county want less. I don't know where to begin. But my question, I'm inquiring though, do we not have a current farmland study going on that is prioritizing farmland and stuff like that? Do we currently have one?
Director Chadwick can speak to that, but it's the county is doing a soil quality study, but we don't know how long that will take. Director Chadwick?
Mayor Bondi to Councillor Hammond. If you're referring to the specialty crop study that the county is implementing or completing, it has not been initiated. We just found out from the county that the RFP is to be posted in the next few months. The study itself should be initiated sometime in 2025, but it's hard to tell when it would be completed. We've written proposed policies in our official plan that identify that the town will comply with and will conform with the policies set forth in the future specialty crop study.
Yeah, but the reason I bring that up is because I would like to, I don't see any reason I'm not against greenhouses by any means, but I don't like seeing greenhouses put on property that are just as good, farming without them. I can see greenhouses in less desirable land that is harder to grow crops on. So I'm all for waiting until that study comes. But as far as I think now's the time to get a bylaw in place that is, wants everything before these greenhouses come, because they'll come eventually. The small ones, they're not as bad as the big ones, but like you say, you only have to look to Leamington to see what they're dealing with. Well, yeah, my thing is, let's get the inventory of the farmland study in, and before we decide to be doing any kind of expansion in greenhouses. But in the meantime, let's tweak up this bylaw if there's, because there's gonna be other issues besides just lighting as well. Well, like you say, with this infrastructure and stuff like that, there's the price to be paid on that. That's just my call.
I have Counselor Garen, then Counselor Meady.
Thanks, through the mayor. Yes, so we're trying, I think the goal here is try to develop a bylaw that's enforceable. I think we're being told by administration that it has to be something that can be enforced. I think if we're going to be in a hard stance that it's got to be 100% all the time, I don't know if we have the ability to even do that. I don't know if we have the ability to stop greenhouse growth. I'm assuming we're developing this because there's no regulation coming down provincially or federally, so we're left dealing with it. The bylaw that's before us is calling for 90% to 100% between the hours of 5 p and 8 a, which is 15 hours. And of those 15 hours, 9 of those hours are at 100%. So it sounds to me like it's much more aggressive in that manner than even Leamington's is. I guess the question I have on the fine, because we are going to have a lot of work for bylaw on this for sure, but we might be already getting work for bylaw as it is. What type of fine are we talking about? And I'm assuming that those bylaw calls are going to come from, they're going to be complaint driven. They could be more so than we're getting now. But I'm wondering what the fine's going to be. Is it going to be education first and then fines? Is it going to be a fine that's significant enough to the greenhouse grower to say, I'll just keep paying the fines, it's worth it for me to do that rather than, invest in what I need to invest in? So those are some of the questions I have.
Through the chair, the fines are currently set to $500 for each time period. So if they're not complying with the 90% limit, but during the 5 to 10 or 2 to 8, it's $500. If they're not complying with the 100% limit overnight, it's $500.
Garen, further?
And then I just had a question to administration. If, right now, if somebody approaches a town and wishes to do a greenhouse, I'm assuming it falls down to the zoning and then the site plan and everything, but nothing's stopping them from putting a greenhouse in, correct?
That's correct. Essentially, a greenhouse would not be prohibited on agriculturally zoned land. They are permitted by right uses on agriculturally zoned land.
Okay, so further. So Councillor Beek's notion was 100% all the time in a new bylaw saying anyone new, we have to do this. We could always write that in. It will get challenged. It would cost us time and money. We would probably lose is what we're hearing. But we could also put it in that we don't, that's what we want. And maybe we deter anybody from starting a greenhouse. I don't know if that's the business model we want to have in Essex. So I think the bylaw before us, as challenging it might be for everybody, I think it probably is written favorably for us too, I think.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. I remember in 2022, and I remember the residents raising a lot of concerns over the light pollution and their quality of life and environment and night sky. And it seems like it's still today. The proposed bylaw does allow some level of light to escape. I agree. I think it's too much. I enjoy very dark sky to my south, west, north, but when I look east, I can see exactly what I don't want to have in Essex. So in this bylaw, I think there's some problems with it. One is the 90% coverage. The way it's written, like an and statements, 90% coverage of the ceiling and side walls and end walls. That means that each of them can only be 90%. So you could get 10% escaping through the end walls, 10% escaping through the side walls, and then another 10% escaping through the ceiling. I think that's way too much. I'd like to see that down to like maybe 98%. Or at the very least 10% overall. As Councillor Guerin mentioned, the hours, when I look at this proposed between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. as the 100% blackout at nighttime during night hours, that's only a 4-hour period. If we had 9 hours at nighttime, this might be a little bit more, like, 10 a.m. or 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. or something like that. I think that would still, give some time for lights and some time to have it blacked out. But I really think that this bylaw should go back and have it rewritten with the goal being to minimize the light pollution to the greatest extent possible, aiming for 0. And if needed, we can maybe make a motion towards that.
Allard, who has not spoke yet?
Mr. Drupal, what was the times and the percentages of light abatement? 8 o'clock till 90%?
To the chair, it's between the time of 5 p.m. and 10 p.m. It's 90% coverage. Between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m., it's 100% coverage. And then between 2 a.m. and 8 a.m., it's 90% coverage. And I just wanted to clarify something that Councillor Mady said. It's not 90% of the ceiling and 90% of the sidewalls and 90% of the end walls. It's 90% of the totality of all of those things.
To go 95%, just to try and make it down closer to 0, but still leave me in the bone for the greenhouse?
Through the chair, originally 98% was going to be the amount that we were going to propose, but the Leamington settlement wouldn't allow for any less than 90. What I suggest to council is if we provisionally adopt the bylaw today, and I think the two issues that we're looking at is probably the amount of light emissions between the non-100% period, and then also what the duration of that 100% period is. I think hearing council's wishes tonight, I think that there may be a way that we can introduce a bylaw that's maybe a little bit more strict, but will still be enforceable. So I propose that maybe council provide some direction on that tonight.
I do want to try to find as much balance as we can, but I also don't want to end up like Leamington as well. So if we do the first and second reading tonight, maybe we need a little bit more time than 2 weeks to come back. That might be, I'd like to, maybe do further community consultation. I do have our chief building official and bylaw officer. He raised his hands. He's in attendance tonight. Mr. Carter.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just to give council some background, out of the 4 greenhouses, existing greenhouses, 2 of the largest ones don't even have lights. The remaining 2 do have lights. One is a federal building, which we have no jurisdiction over. So it leaves us 1. And that's where we're getting the complaint. And I'm not going to name it, but the other complaints that we do get are small backyard greenhouses. 200 square feet. They have the lights on all night. This bylaw does not address that. So I just want to keep council aware. This is not a big out of control. We're not a Leamington. We're not a Kingsville. This is a bylaw I think will hold weight with our one and only concern in our municipality. I just want council to be aware of that.
Drucolo?
Just to add on to what Manager Carter said, the backyard greenhouses, they're actually covered by another nuisance bylaw that we have. So this is specific to large greenhouses and like production size greenhouses.
Before I go to Councillor Verbeek, board we need some direction from council. Is there any way that, we have a two-tiered bylaw with what is existing now and then on site plan control? Like, is there any way we can have a 0 on site plan control for anything new?
I don't see how it's not susceptible to the same sort of challenges. I mean, we're open to trying anything, but it's still susceptible to the same sort of challenges.
Mayor, so I was about to make a motion following up on Councillor Mady's comments. I thought I would just make a motion that we receive the report and that we defer this and send it back for some revisions that is much closer to the original one that was brought to us in 2022. And the council of the day, which included me, was fearful because of all the legal challenges that Leamington was facing. We don't want to be Leamington. We're not looking at becoming that. And I think we need to get ahead of things so that the new report could actually have information on all the newest technologies. A lot of this stuff in here is 2022, 2023 letters to Mr. Auger. And I'm thinking, like, there's a lot has changed in the last few years. There's a lot of new technologies too. So maybe we just, receive this report and defer and get one that is closer to the one from 2022 that came to us with 100%, but we were fearful that there would be challenges. So we didn't adopt it and we pushed it back to administration, who have now come to us with this. Not that I'm not grateful for the work, but it's still not getting us to where we want to be. We have 4 greenhouses. Thank you, Mr. Carter, just told us that at least 2 of them aren't giving us any issues with the light pollution. We want to address the light pollution before we have it in this community. So before we have more greenhouses built, it would be great if we could get this into place so that before they build, they have these restrictions and we won't have to anything to enforce.
Just through to the chair, just to address your comments on conducting updated research. We did conduct updated research. Most of the research pointed to is in the report is the old research because of the fact that we were addressing the previous bylaw, but updated research was conducted, and it was suggested that that these were the parameters that we use, and we actually did relax a few things because of the updated research, but we kept most of it the same.
Okay, so I do need a direction from council. That could be passing the first and second reading and coming back in a couple meetings. That could be tabling it, or that could be different direction altogether. I do need direction. I had Councillor Guerin's hand up before Councillor Mady. So Councillor Guerin, then Councillor Mady.
Mr. Mayor, just to Councillor Beek's point, we keep trying to get back to 0, like 100% coverage. We're being told that we can't. If we write it in for a new business, 100%, that it's going to get challenged. So it's already been drafted to what we feel we can enforce. So any tabling of it or putting it off or coming back with changes to it that's going to include the 100% coverage for any new grower or anyone who doesn't have it right now, we're being told that it's not going to be something that we can enforce. I'm pretty sure that's what you were saying you wanted to possibly do.
I'm sorry, Councillor Mady. I had the deputy mayor in line, actually, probably before Councillor Guerin. If everybody could just speak one more to it, and then we'll get some direction.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I can get behind some of this bylaw. For me, I think if you could increase that 100% time, 10 to 4, 9:30 to 4:30, something that gives us more of 100%. Because I think that's really what everybody's really looking for, is that just to expand that 100% window. The 90%, I wouldn't even care if they went 80% or 70% until 10 o'clock, as long as from 10 till 4 in the morning or 4:30, something gives just a little more time for people to have a normalcy for the animal life, the nocturnal life out there, everything else. It just allows more normalcy. And I'm hoping that we can get to that. And then I'm good with a first and second reading, as long as we're going to get to something in that realm. I can get behind that.
Maybe.
From what I'm hearing in the recent comments from Deputy Mayor, instead of passing it provisionally, I'd recommend deferring it if council's under the direction adjusting kind of that 100% time period, then we can go back revised and then it can have its 2 readings and then time for public comments after that. But we need some direction to amend it what you're looking for. So if it's what Deputy Mayor just addressed, that time period for 100%, knowing to keep some 90%, but at that, we can look at that.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. Yeah, I was gonna second Counselor for Beek's motion. I thought she was trying to make a motion. But either Counselor for Beek's or Deputy Mayors of deferring this. I wouldn't want to read this 2 times tonight at all. I'd like to defer it and have it tightened up, just as CAO Sweet was just explaining.
By Councillor Verbeek, supported by Councillor Mady, that we defer it and have it come back. And now we need to talk about some things. I kind of like it being dark a little bit earlier, like even 8, 9, and to 4. I don't know. We leave it with our administration's discretion to bring us back. So do we need a deferral date?
If you're going to table it, we don't need a date. If you're deferring, we do need to defer to a date.
Motion to table then? Motion to table instead. Okay, so now we're specifically talking about tabling. If you have a comment, you could talk about tabling. If not, all in favor of tabling it until our administration can bring it back. Opposed? 1 opposed. Councillor Hammond, were you in favor of tabling it? Okay, so that is 1 opposed. Okay, thank you to our delegations. I need a motion to receive our delegations this evening, moved by Deputy Mayor Shepley, supported by Councillor Mady. All in favor, and that is carried. And we tabled the other, so I don't need to do that. All right, thank you for coming. You can stay if you want. We need to get some more comfortable. We need to get some more comfortable chairs, don't we? Okay, moving on, we have Fire and Rescue Services, Essex Fire and Rescue 2024 Annual Report. We have our Chief, Jason Pilon, and our Deputy Chief, JC Brockman, here in attendance tonight.
And through you, good evening, Council. It's our pleasure to be here this evening to speak to our 2024 Annual Statistical Report. Deputy Brockman and I will speak to the key highlights and statistics within that report. 2024 proved to be another busy year for Essex Fire and Rescue, although our calls for service decreased 12% from 2023, which is a positive. A major factor in the 12% decrease in response from 2023 to 2024 was primarily due to the 3 significant storm events that occurred in 2023. Fortunately, we did not have experienced any major storm events in 2024. In 2024, Essex Fire responded to a total of 348 calls, with 27 of those calls being fires, which is 8% of our total calls were fire-related in 2024. This includes structure fires, car fires, rubbish fires, grass, and field fires. In 2024, the 348 calls were distributed across all 3 stations, with Essex Station 3 responding to the highest number at 156 calls, followed by Station 1 at 119, and Station 2 handling 73 of those calls. 14% of our 2024 responses were medical responses. These are responses where a person is VSA, which is vital signs absent, in which per our tiered medical response agreement, we respond with EMS. In 3 of these responses, we utilize our AED defibrillator, which means we were on scene prior to EMS. 19% of our responses in 2024 were false alarm calls, which include fire, smoke, and carbon monoxide alarm activations. Most of these responses are residential homes where smoke alarms or carbon monoxide alarms have activated with no smoke or fire present. Now, these are normally one-time visits, which allow us to correct the issue with a new alarm, which were provided by the Harrow Rotary Club, Enbridge Gas, and Fire Marshal Public Safety Council in years past. With false alarms in 2024, we recovered $2,799.30 for 3 false alarm responses in a year at 2 locations. In accordance with the Town of Essex fee bylaw, if a location has more than 3 incidents in a calendar year, we can charge the current MTO rate, which is $570.50 per apparatus. The estimated financial savings from fire-related incidents for the year totaled $1,560,000.
and while the losses were $833,100. Now, these figures include damages and savings from fires affected by structures, vehicles, open areas, considerable factors like occupancy, building size, and damage to neighboring properties. Calls throughout the days of the week in 24 remain pretty consistent, with Saturday being the busiest day with 59 responses, and Friday having the fewest responses of 40. I'll now turn it over to Deputy Brockman. He can speak to training.
So moving on to training. So we had another good year providing training to our staff at Essex Fire and Rescue Service. We planned for succession planning, and here are some of the trainings that we've provided throughout the year. So NFPA 1041, which is a fire instructor level 1 course. Officer/captain development. We provided a leadership conflict resolution course specifically for our captains and district chiefs. We also provided standard first aid and CPR recertification to all of our firefighters. We brought in an advanced forcible entry course with a live fire component through Southwest Fire Academy. We had Enbridge come in, provide a natural gas awareness and safety for first responders course. Also, Canadian Mental Health Association came in and they did a mental health wellness training for first responders. We also put 12 new recruits through training last year, and they were certified in 1001 level 1 and 2 and hazmat. So I'm glad to say that they've all passed all their exams. They're all fully certified now. We also had equine Guelph large animal rescue training, which was provided at WETRA. So this was a new course which equipped firefighters and first responders with skills to handle vehicular accidents involving livestock transport. This training prepares staff for unique situations involving live or injured animals, and more advanced rescue courses are expected in the future with WETRA. We're going to move on to public education and prevention. So in 2024, it was obviously another successful year for Pub Ed and prevention with the fire department. We conducted 220 fire inspections. This includes routine request complaints, safety concerns, and along with 8 temporary foreign worker housing inspections, 21 short-term rentals as well. We anticipate the number for the short-term rentals to go up this year as it's approaching their 3-year renewal period. So we should have quite a few more of the short-term rental inspections to do this year. We conducted 16 provincially mandated vulnerable occupancy inspections, which involves observing supervisory staff duties, timing fire drills at retirement homes, care occupancies, and residential care homes. Fire safety and public education, we attended 66 events throughout the municipality in which we provided safety messaging to approximately 16,000 people of various ages. Essex Fire and Rescue's smoke and carbon monoxide alarm program will continue again in 2024, ensuring homes had functional alarms. During responses and inspections, new alarms were installed if existing ones were expired or inoperable. In total, 257 residential checks were conducted, and over 250 alarms were installed, thanks to the donations from the Rotary Club of Harrow, Enbridge, Project Zero, and First Alert Canada. Non-compliance with the fire code could result in a $360 ticket in your home if you don't have a working smoke and seal alarm. In 2024, 2 tickets were issued after responding to a home with no working alarms during an active fire. Fortunately, the occupants noticed the fire, called 911, and avoided a tragic outcome. So in 2024, the town of Essex launched an online burn permit platform, allowing residents to register once and then call a local number to check the risk level and to activate their permit. So this system has simplified the process, eliminating administrative burdens through the support, although support is still available to those needing some assistance. A total of 764 burn permits were registered, with residents providing positive feedback on the ease and convenience of the platform. Many of them appreciated this and said it was definitely a lot easier to call the number and you push 1 to activate your permit. We also joined up with the RAMP Clinic this year, for firefighter wellness. So they offered basically a cancer and wellness check to first responders and firefighters throughout the county. Not just the county, I guess they expanded out to Sarnia and London as well, all the way through Windsor. So they prioritize firefighter health and wellness by offering comprehensive wellness and cancer prevention screening. Recognizing the unique risks firefighters face, these screenings are crucial for ensuring their long-term health. 57% of our active firefighters participated in this initiative, and we also have another 20 coming up next month. So looking ahead to the program, it will continue into 2025, and we're also going to expand this to retired firefighters. So this further demonstrates our commitment to the well-being of all Essex Fire and Rescue staff. The program has already proven beneficial, with some firefighters identifying underlying health issues during routine screenings that might have gone unnoticed otherwise, allowing for prompt treatment and faster resolution. I'll pass it off to Chief Pilon.
In conclusion, council, the highlight of 2024 is that our firefighters stayed free from major injuries aside from minor bumps and bruises. On behalf of myself and fire administration, we are incredibly proud of our team. We sincerely thank them for their dedication, ongoing training, and the sacrifices they make, often being away from their families. Their commitment is truly exceptional, and they continue to provide outstanding service to the residents of Essex. At the 2024 Annual Awards and Service Recognition Evening last year, we celebrated our firefighters who collectively accumulated an impressive 556 years of dedicated service, which is remarkable. So thank you. I'll take any questions.
For a motion to receive the presentation, and then we'll have questions. Looking for a mover and a seconder that the Essex Fire and Rescue Annual Report be received for information. Councillor Allard, Councillor Verbeek. Questions, comments from members of council? Deputy Mayor Shepley.
I'm just wondering if you can speak to the 764 burn permits. Did you find that the burn permits were more cooperative having that platform as to what we used to deal with?
I believe we did a big public education campaign. So I think our burn permits actually had went down from years past. That's because we really educated on the use of the permit, and you don't need it for like a 2x2 campfire in your backyard. So we had a lot of people call the office about that once we did the public campaigns. So we definitely found that our burn permits have actually decreased a little bit, but it's because they're being utilized for what they're for actually open burns.
One of the questions that I just recently got, it was actually on social media, is can our fire department put out a fire on a 6-story apartment building or higher? Like,
Of course we can. Yes, we can. Yeah, we have the capabilities, and we have specialized equipment for going into multi-story buildings, as well as we have our aerial platform. Thank you.
okay, all in favor of receiving the presentation? Opposed, and that's carried unanimously. Moving on to Fire and Rescue 2025-03 Grant Funding, Ministry of Solicitor General, Office of the Fire Marshal, Fire Protection Grant. And our Chief, Jason Pilon, will speak to this as well.
Through you. In 2024, the Ministry of the Solicitor General, OFM, received approval for a $30 million grant over 3 years to support municipal fire services. The funding is aimed at acquiring essential equipment, improving health and safety measures, and addressing infrastructure needs to enhance fire protection services. The first year of the grant focused on firefighter health and safety, particularly cancer prevention and minor infrastructure upgrades, based on input from Ontario Fire Service stakeholders. The Essex Fire and Rescue Service is using this year's funding to upgrade its PPE and implement the cancer prevention measures, including enhanced decontamination practices. Challenge persists in quickly cleaning all exposed gear without compromising firefighter availability. While spare bunker gear is accessible, there aren't enough second sets of structural firefighting gloves, balaclavas, and helmet liners, posing a risk of skin contamination. While these items can be washed, rapid drying is often not feasible between back-to-back emergencies. Providing each firefighter with a second set of gloves and protective hood would ensure their gear can be washed and decontaminated without affecting their readiness. The grant has allocated $24,691.35 to Essex for the purchase of additional PPE, including balaclavas, gloves, and helmet liners. This will ensure our firefighters always have clean gear, thereby supporting cancer prevention initiatives. This way we can get our firefighters, we're getting all their gear cleaned. They have spare gear that they can wear, and they're not putting any contaminated gear on. So it's really beneficial for our people, for our staff.
I'll look for a mover and a seconder that the Fire Rescue Services report be received and that council approve the 2025 post-budget approval for the capital project firefighter cancer prevention supplies in the amount of $24,691.35 to be fully funded from the grant funding reserved from the Ministry of the Solicitor General. Looking for a mover and a seconder, and then Councillor Hammond, Councillor Mady, Any questions, comments from council? Thank you. Money well spent. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried unanimously. Fire and Rescue Services 2025-04 Cobalt Magnet Nuclear Emergency Exercise. And we have Chief Pilon again here to speak to this.
Through you, Mayor Bonnie, it's a lot tonight, eh? So the purpose of this report is to inform council that the town of Essex will be participating in the Cobalt Magnet CM25 exercise, which is a nuclear exercise that focuses on managing the off-site consequences of a radiological or nuclear incident. Planned since 2023, it aims to strengthen collaboration among response organizations, identify gaps, and improve operations. The exercise is in line with the Provincial Nuclear Emergency Response Plan, which outlines municipal actions during a nuclear emergency at the Fermi 2 nuclear generation station. The town of Essex and the city of Windsor have been designated as host municipalities for this facility in the response plan. The exercise will have over 100 organizations and over 2,000 participants. It will test international agreements and cross-border implications and communications. The exercise is scheduled from March 14th to 21st. Although Essex is Municipal Emergency Control Group, will only participate on March 17th and 18th. During this period, Fire Station 2 will function as a reception center for evacuees and the Emergency Operations Center at Fire Station 1 will be fully operational. Expect increased activity at these locations on those dates. It's important to note that there will be no disruptions or changes to service, and both stations will remain in service ready for any response. This exercise will be the largest nuclear emergency simulation in North American history.
I'm looking for a mover and a seconder that the Fire Rescue Services report be received for information. Moved by Councillor Hammond, supported by Councillor Verbeek. Any questions, comments? Councillor Verbeek.
Sure, you, Madam Mayor. That's pretty exciting. What an honor, eh, to host this event. And I hope we get to see lots of social media posts and pictures afterwards.
Been a lot of years of planning, and they've identified some gaps, and hopefully we can get those gaps filled. And like I said, we were kind of voluntold through the PNERP that we're a host municipality, but it's gonna be an eye opener. It's gonna be really something to experience.
All in favor? Opposed, and that is carried. Thank you. Thank you for your patience tonight, too. More time away from your families, eh? Oh, thank the forest. Parks and Facilities, results for request for proposal for Coam Park will go to Director Morrisseau right now.
Thank you, Mayor Bonnie. Over the past couple of years, administration has been working with the town of Amherstburg on a Coam Park master plan. And part of this master plan was to get a new playground put in place because the playground that was existing was more of a neighborhood sized park. It's older as well, and it was time to upgrade that to a community park. So in the 2024 budget, the town of Essex put $200,000 and the town of Amherstburg put $200,000, totaling $400,000 for this project. And we've been working on that project. So the RFP went out late last year, and the process came back with New World Park Solutions, their second option, as the victorious in the procurement process. So one thing just to keep in mind, that is option 3 that was voted on online. There was a little confusion with some people for that, but it is the third option that was voted online, but it was their second submission because in the procurement package, each of the vendors could provide 2 different park projects. So that's where we stand. It looks like if council approves this, that we'll be able to get the PO out pretty soon. And things look good timeline to have this fully installed and used hopefully this summer.
By Councillor Verbeek, supported by Deputy Mayor Shepley, that the Parks and Facilities report be received and that council award the request for proposal to design, supply, and install playground equipment for Coam Park to New World Park Solutions, Inc. in the amount of $389,791 with 50% funded by the town of Amherstburg. Any questions, comments to our director? I just have a quick one. So the town of Amherstburg is in agreement and we're moving along. And do we have a timeline?
So the town of Amherstburg agreed that we were going to oversee the RFP process. So they did have 2 representatives that were part of the evaluation committee. So that was their way of interacting. They also participated in the RFP document development and the review process. So by pushing this forward, as we were the ones that were hosting the RFP, we're the ones that have to issue the PO. So pending council's approval, it's going to be a go-ahead. And I was told by our procurement division that we should be able to get this PO out tomorrow, if not Wednesday. And then the order is going to go in, and looks like I mentioned earlier, this summer should be installation and using this playground.
Anybody comments? Long time coming. All right, all in favor? And that is carried unanimously. We've already dealt with 10.5, so moving on to 10.6. Operations 2025 Erie Wellington Crosswalk. We have Manager Norm Nucio here. Welcome.
Sure. So just a quick report. Back in October 21st, 2024, Council asked administration to bring back the feasibility of installing a crosswalk at Erie and Wellington in Harrow, which this council's made a commitment to installing appropriately treated crosswalks within the town of Essex as per the OTM 15 books. So quickly, we just have an image of where Erie Wellington intersection is and how implementing the type D level 2 crosswalk would look in that section. And we provided some costing of about $17,500 is our estimate for that. And we're asking that if council wishes to move forward, they would bring it to our 2026 budget deliberations.
Deputy Mayor Shepley, and supported by Councillor Hammond, that the operations report be received for information, and Deputy Mayor Shepley to speak to it.
I really appreciate the report. It does exactly what we asked, and I would like to include it in our budget for 2026. I mean, it's something we can at least discuss at that time. I would like to see this. I think it's much needed, and I really appreciate the report. Thank you.
Okay.
I agree with Mr. Shepsey wholeheartedly. I'm in favor.
Okay, me too. I'm a little maybe biased and embarrassed that I didn't champion it before. Okay, all in favor? Opposed, and that's carried unanimously. Development Services, 10.7 noise bylaw amendments. We will have Director Chadwick walk us through this, and then we'll get a motion.
Thank you, Mayor Bondi, and good evening, Council. The purpose of this report is to summarize proposed amendments to the town's current noise bylaw and to seek your direction on those amendments. Under the current noise bylaw enforcement officers, as well as the OPP, will make professional judgments regarding the reasonableness of amplified noise, and that's specifically stemming from sound equipment such as radios, loudspeakers, and musical and sound producing equipment. And that professional judgment is used to decide whether or not a noise is a disturbance at a point of reception. So for clarification, a point of reception is the location where the sound is received, not the location for where the sound originates. Administration has therefore initiated a review of the town's noise bylaw to therefore address growing concerns related to amplified noise and to improve our enforcement abilities, essentially to add teeth behind the judgment. While we were reviewing the noise bylaw, we also took that opportunity to simplify language surrounding bird bangers. So according to MECP's environmental noise guideline for stationary and transportation sources, noises are considered to be an acceptable level if they are between 40 and 60 decibels, or match the ambient background noise, whichever is louder. Page 3 of our report lists examples for you of various sounds and their decibels ranging from faint to moderate to loud and very loud. So using these MECP guidelines, what we did is we proposed amendments to the noise bylaw to incorporate acceptable levels of noise resulting from, again, specifically noise from radios, sound equipment, loudspeakers, etc., again, at the point of reception. As we've identified on that page, a maximum of 45 decibels or the ambient background noise, whichever is louder, is what we'd be looking for between the hours of 7 a.m. to 4 p.m., a maximum of 55 decibels, or again, the ambient background noise, whichever is louder, between the hours of 4 p.m. and 11 p.m. And then between 11 p.m. overnight to 7 a.m., we're looking at a maximum of 40 decibels, or again, the ambient background noise, whichever is louder. So again, these decibels are being proposed to enforce noise created by radios, sound equipment, loudspeakers, or musical or sound producing equipment, essentially a party and speakers and loud systems from the party. So we are proposing to utilize, by the way, a sound level meter to measure those sound levels. So earlier we chatted about, what instruments do we have to measure and to enforce. In this instance, we've done our due diligence and we've proposed that we would utilize a sound level meter when investigating noise complaints, again, at the point of reception. We propose to provide Essex OPP as well as Hera OPP detachments, each with a sound level meter identical to the town's. And then lastly, again, because we took a peek at other sections of the bylaw, we saw that we needed to clean up the language respecting bird bangers. So we propose that section 8 of the current bylaw be revised to simplify the language and that we also remove Schedule B. A red line track changes version of the noise bylaw can be found attached to your report, where you can see the various proposed revisions, but you'll also see a standalone clean bylaw being the new bylaw 2422, the noise control bylaw. So here this evening, we have our manager of bylaw enforcement, Kevin Carter, who's able to answer any questions that you may have. And for reference, we have collaborated quite closely with our Director of Legal and Legislative Services as well. Thank you, Mayor Bondi.
Shepley.
I was wondering if you could touch on, because I'm still, we talked briefly, so I do understand it a little better now. But what I'm trying to understand is where the rationale is for the 45 during the daytime and the increase to 55 to 11. Wouldn't it be more sensible to have it at 55 maybe throughout then, as opposed to having the reduction during the day when everybody's out working and doing their things? And I'm trying to understand why it would be reduced to that daytime hours and then increased to 11 o'clock at night.
About building and bylaw, Kevin Carter.
Mayor. Yes, to answer that question, we use the study and the MOE CP, and they determined that from 7 a.m. to 4 is 45 decibels, which is or the ambient background noise. And then they incorporated from 4 to 11, which I couldn't quite understand at first, but then it did make sense when you read further. And that is, it's more conducive for people to have backyard parties from 4 to 11 o'clock, not 7 in the morning till 4. So the vast majority of people think that's last. They bumped the decibel rating up higher to address that pocket of time. And then again, some people may ask, well, 45 decibels is that loud? If I had a decibel reader in here, just with that fan going in the background and so forth, it would probably be around 50 right now. With us talking, it could spike to 70. So we as bylaw officers we also have written in here the discretion of the officer. If the decibel reader, because I know this question is coming, were to trigger higher than 55, we're not writing a ticket. We have to look at what is the ambient. It's highly likely the ambient would be higher than your neighbor talking in the background and so forth. It's from the point of reception, not where the noise is generated. It's from basically the complainant. What are they hearing? That's where we as bylaw officers are going to go, is to the complainant's backyard. And then officer's discretion, then when in doubt, we'll use the meter. I hope that helps.
Help out a lot. The only thing I would say for the daytime one, I know friends with pools and that, and they do have their pool parties during the day, and then that's when the music is played, and so that was why I was questioning it. Just for that type of atmosphere during the day, where I know I know people have their pool parties and get-togethers, and they generally play music and hooting and hollering and such. So that was my question. Thank you for that explanation, Kevin.
They should invite their neighbors over. Director Malandrucolo.
Want to speak to pool parties briefly. If it was the type of pool party that was an organized party that like say for example a birthday party or something like that, and you know that there's going to be loud noise and you know that it might be an issue in your neighborhood, you can apply to the town for a special occasion permit, and we can allow for that party to take place under permit, and then there'll be no issues with bylaw enforcement.
That special occasion permit, that does not come to council. That's an administrative function, delegated authority.
Through the chair, yes, it is. It comes through the clerk's department, and we check with all the other departments to make sure that they're on board. And then if we provide the permit subject to some parameters if necessary.
Other comments from members of council? Councillor Garen.
Mayor, how much is that permit?
Through the chair, I'm not aware that there's any fee on that permit.
Looking for a mover and a seconder that the Development Services report be received and that bylaw 2242 be read a first, second time and provisionally adopted on March 3rd. Moved by Deputy Mayor Shepley, supported by Councillor Hammond. Any further questions, comments? All in favor? And that is carried. Tonight, we have regrets from our youth members, and I'll go to our Deputy Mayor for County Council update.
February 19th, County Council report. Representatives of the Bridge Youth Resource Center in Leamington gave council an update on the nonprofit organization's tiny home community project, which will see the construction of 38 housing units. The project has received zoning and site plan approvals and recently secured a building permit. About $100,000 in development charges were waived by the municipality of Leamington. The County of Essex funded $2 million from 2024 and 2025 budgets, $1 million per year, not $4 million. Private donor invested $2 million as well. Krista Rempel, Executive Director of the Bridge Youth Resource Center, told Essex County Council its investment was leveraged by the Bridge to secure additional capital funds. Rempel stated that our investment specifically was pivotal to them securing additional funds. County Council passed a bylaw establishing 2025 tax policy and levy ratios with no significant changes from the previous year. They also approved the continuation of the Essex County Tax Assistance Program for low-income seniors and low-income persons with disabilities, as well as Essex County Charity Tax Rebate Program. Additionally, councilors received a background report summarizing the 2025 tax policy discussions with representatives from the 7 local municipalities. We did ask at the time that where we could find that tax assistance program. They said that the lower municipalities have it on their website. So I'm hoping at the end of this, I could maybe touch to administration to touch on where to find that. The annual cost of the county's credit rating evaluation conducted for the past 24 years has risen to $28,000 in 2024. While county's strong credit rating doesn't directly impact borrowing rates for local municipalities, it ensures county secures the best possible rates for its borrowing and provides access to valuable resources and insights according to the report. County Council appointed KPMG as their auditing firm for the next 5 years, and they were the recording firm the firm on record for the previous 5 years. And County Council voted to rescind the resolution passed during the 2025 budget deliberations and restored funding to Invest Windsor Essex to $1,120,000. Deputy Warden Joe Bichetti, who initially voted to cut the development agency's funding by 15%, made the motion to rescind the decision and restore the county's funding to the requested level. Council stipulated that the Invest Windsor Essex complete its strategic plan in 2025. The vote was 8-6 to rescind. A motion that County Council of Essex will examine the viability of a Buy Canadian procurement strategy was passed, which will include defining what is Canadian content and how to determine the percentage of Canadian content. Also, County Council passed a resolution calling for the provincial and federal governments to eliminate interprovincial trade barriers to ensure that items produced in the County of Essex can move freely across county boundaries. Thank you, and that's my County Council report.
Thank you, Mayor. That's great. So one way to look at affordable housing is we did, in fact, make a meaningful contribution. Even though we didn't hear at our table, we did regionally. So we are working on affordable housing at the regional level. Correspondence to be received. Looking for a mover and a seconder that all correspondence listed in agenda item 13.1 be received. We did already receive 13.1.2. Looking for a mover and a seconder on this correspondence. Councillor Allard and Deputy Mayor Shepley, all in favor. That's carried. Now, any members of council? Councillor Hammond.
I'd like to support 13.1.3, the City of Windsor's correspondence regarding opioid crisis in the homeless encampments. I'd like to support that one as well.
And moves that 13.1.3 be supported. How would you like to support it, Councillor Hammond?
Just
Send it to our list.
send it to our list. Just let me see what my note is here. Just support it. Basically, they have, just support it and send it to our list. They have a very big list that they're sending to. I'd like to send it to that one. because,
Okay.
It touches bases on, our own work regarding homelessness and our opioid crisis, and I would like to see that we are supporting this one as well. Thank you.
Okay, needing a seconder? Deputy Mayor Shepley, anybody speaking to this? Councillor Verbeek.
A couple of questions. I wondered if someone from administration could look at it and just comment a little bit on it. I had a little concern with it because I believe the request is to just create another ministry to look into the problem. And I'm just wondering if that's the main request, because I know I only skimmed these letters, but when I looked at it, I didn't feel like there was a real fix suggested. Is that the quest?
Mayor Bonnie, yeah, that's correct. We're looking to establish a ministry of homelessness. That is part of the resolution from the City of Windsor.
They probably won't. So just my feedback, but yeah. Okay. All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Any other correspondence anybody wishes to pull out? Okay, seeing none, we have our committee meeting minutes. Looking for a mover and a seconder that the committee meeting minutes listed in agenda item 14, together with any recommendations to council noted therein, be received, approved, adopted as circulated. We do have one recommendation that I wish to highlight to council and members of the public from the Finance Committee from February 18th. The recommendation was that the Finance Committee recommend that council direct our community services staff to meet with the executive director of the Essex Youth Center to see what programs for the youth were provided in 2024 and what programs are scheduled in 2025 to avoid duplication in programs. Moved and seconded. Moved by Deputy Mayor Shepley, supported by Councillor Mady. Any questions? All in favor? Opposed? That's carried unanimously. Nothing under financial, and I would like to pass the gavel to the Deputy Mayor. I have a new business item, and it's TELUS Tower.
Explain the minor and urgency of it, please.
Yes, so Deputy Mayor, I would like us to consider, sorry, I'm just pulling it up. There's a lot on here. Okay. I would like us to consider that we send a letter in support to TELUS regarding their TELUS tower that is already constructed. It is minor because all we have to do is send a letter. It is urgent because the tower is there and we want more cell phone connectivity, and they cannot turn it on. They cannot activate They cannot activate the tower without a letter of support from us. It is also not even in our municipality. It's in the municipality of Kingsville, but they have asked this of us a couple weeks ago. So I Zoomed with them Friday and they asked if we could send a letter.
If there's seconder for this. Seconded by Councillor Allard. Any questions?
I can read the nature of what the letter would say.
Mayor Bondi.
The importance of telecommunication for safety in day-to-day business operations has become a necessity, and that the town of Essex is in support of the expansion of telecommunications network in the region for the benefits of the community in whole. TELUS completed a consultation process, which was required by Kingsville's policy, and received the concurrence letter from the town of Kingsville. Whereas the structure is located in this context, the town of Essex reviewed the location. The TELUS is proposing for the installation, and the address of the tower is the vacant land on County Road 23, Gosfield North. There's a whole bunch of part lots in there in the town of Kingsville. The town of Essex is supporting the installation of the tower and is encouraging TELUS to put the tower in service as soon as possible, as it will also benefit the community of Essex. A letter to that regards.
Thank you, Mayor Bondi. You're good with that. Seconder? Yep. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? And that carries. Oh, Jason, Councillor Mady, sorry, I did not see you. I'm not used to looking up there.
Thank you, and I totally understand. I just had a question on it. This is the tower that is almost across from where the arena is, the one that we asked them not to build there.
That's correct.
And if we don't support this, they can't turn it on?
I believe that to be correct. CAO Suite.
Your Deputy Mayor Shepley. From what we're told from Connect Windsor Essex, that in the past, right, if there was, say, a letter in this case from Essex opposing it, they just kind of noted it. Now they looked at they need 100% compliance. So that's kind of something new. And as Mayor Bonnie mentioned, it's in terms of getting that connectivity in terms of cell. And actually from when they first proposed it, it's actually moved further down the road. So it's more towards open fields away from the residential area.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. And yeah, maybe in the future we can remind neighboring municipalities about that when we're deciding on where we're going to put these. But I'm all for connectivity and the need for broadband in the rural areas. But maybe in future negotiations it'll help on where these get placed.
Maybe I'll call the vote again since I didn't do it properly the last time. All in favor? And that carries. There's some motion. 1 second. I gotta locate it. On to item 17.1. The following notice of motions were, or you read that, Joe? Go ahead.
Mayor Shepley, through you. The following notices of motion were presented at the February 18, 2025 regular council meeting and are being brought forward this evening for council's consideration. The first one, moved by Mayor Bondi, that council direct administration to review the amount of garbage containers in our downtown cores to be effective in keeping our community clean. This includes the addition of cigarette butt containers as well.
Seconder. Seconded by Councillor Verbeek. Mayor Bondi.
Chair Shepley, just looking to see going into our next year's budget if we can, if we need more garbage containers in our downtown urban centers. I believe we do. I believe we need to look at maybe even cigarette butt containers as well. I've picked up a lot of garbage in 2024. Want to try to get ahead of it. I think we also need to work with the chamber, potentially the BIA, and see what people's shopping patterns are like. And I think containers should be matched with people's shopping patterns. For example, you go into a convenience store, you come out, you're opening your pack of gum. A lot of people just throw it down. So I think we need to think of it from Walker Downtowns from a shopper and see if we can work a little bit more to keep our town clean. Pretty basic.
Mayor Bondi, any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? And that carries. Item 17.1.2.
Deputy Mayor Shepley, through you. Also moved by Mayor Bondi that the council of the town of Essex direct the town's administration to request more information from the county of Essex regarding the proposed uploading of the management of Phragmites to the county of Essex in advance of making a decision at the local level. Information such as scope, level of service, and costs associated with the program would be helpful in determining next steps.
Looking for a seconder. Counselor Mady, Mayor Bondi, would you like to speak on the motion?
Chair, if we could ask Manager Nucio, just if he has any thoughts on this. We're supposed to bring back direction from our local council on uploading Phragmites, but I don't think we even know enough information.
To the chair. So we've had some conversation about this with administration and the county, I believe, brought a report about a month ago, I think, to their council, kind of discussing what their thoughts are on what every municipality was doing. We do have a group right now that forms all the local municipalities, the Nature Conservancy Canada and IRCA. And that board, I think, meets a few times a year, and they're looking at funding and stuff to kind of help combat some of those things. From our perspective, we've had a pretty robust program for 15, 20 years. This council spending about $125,000 a year on noxious weeds, frag, and mowing of municipal drains and roadside ditches now. It's something, in our opinion, that we'd probably like to keep within our municipality, and I think that's kind of the consensus for most municipalities. So uploading it to the county isn't something that we're looking forward to right now, but that'll be coming in the report, obviously, from this notice of motion too, to bring some more information.
Manager Nucio, any questions? Counselor Mady.
Yeah, thank you, and through you, Chair. I'm looking forward to this report, and I thank Mayor Bondi for making this motion because I do have some real concerns about uploading it regionally, given the fact that Essex has done a wonderful job. I can't say how good of a job that they're doing trying to control these. It's a horrible problem, but our municipality is definitely one of the forerunners in trying to control it. And I would like to continue that. So thanks.
AO Sweet.
Just for clarification, basically what the motion is looking for, that we'll send a letter back to the county, kind of to get more information what they're looking at. But part of our response will be, from what we've heard from council administrative, is we want to stay status quo. We think we're doing a pretty good job. They have a working group already that we want to continue to use that. That's kind of the stance we're going to send back into turn of this letter. If their scope is more than that, or they want to look at uploading, we'll definitely come back with a report for council direction.
Any other questions? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? And that clears. Passes.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Shepley. Through you. The following notices of motion are for presentment only and will be brought forward for council's consideration at the March 17, 2025 regular council. Moved by Mayor Bondi that council direct administration to prepare a report identifying ways the town can encourage Canadian purchasing while still acting within applicable legislation, including an assessment of our current procurement bylaw and potential revisions to achieve this. Moved by Deputy Mayor Shepley. Whereas the Essex Center Streetscape project is now complete, and whereas it is essential to evaluate how the revised streetscape plan has affected traffic flow and to identify opportunities for improving signage to enhance traffic efficiency and pedestrian safety, the key goals of the project, be it resolved that council direct administration to prepare a report addressing the following traffic efficiency and pedestrian safety aspects of the project. As a thorough review of these aspects will help ensure that traffic flow remains efficient and pedestrian safety is optimized in alignment with the streetscape project's objectives. Number one, no left turn restriction into Shinkles. Provide the rationale for the existing restriction on left turns into Shinkles when traveling north on Talbot. Explore options for removing the restriction, including potential impacts and considerations. Number two, no left turn restriction onto Laird Avenue. Provide the rationale for the newly implemented restriction on left turns onto Laird Avenue when traveling north on Talbot. Assess the feasibility of removing this restriction or introducing a time-based restriction, including potential impacts and considerations. Number three, feasibility of flashing indicators at key crosswalks. Evaluate the potential for implementing flashing indicator functions of the two busiest crosswalks in Essex Center, Talbot and Wilson, Talbot and Laird Avenue. Include legislative requirements, estimated costs, and necessary steps for implementing new crosswalk controls at these locations. Number 3, moved by Councillor Mady. Whereas the town of Essex recognizes high-speed internet access as a basic human right and essential for residents, businesses, and agriculture. And whereas due to the challenges of limited broadband in rural areas, particularly in Essex County, Council for the Town of Essex advocates for increased investment in rural broadband infrastructure. And whereas Council for the Town of Essex urges that the procurement for these services prioritize Canadian-based companies and exclude foreign providers, ensuring security, job creation, and adherence to Canadian standards. Now, therefore, that Council direct administration to draft a letter to be signed by the mayor of the town and sent to the Ontario and federal governments, as well as local MPPs and MPs, advocating for these priorities, highlighting the importance of equitable access to reliable internet, and emphasizing that rural broadband is crucial for economic development, education, healthcare, and overall community well-being.
We're going to be busy next meeting. Councillor Guerin, do you have any reports and announcements?
Mayor, I do. I want to extend congratulations to Essex native Colin Danes on his 2025 induction into the Brock University Sports Hall of Fame over the weekend. Colin's an Essex high school graduate. He attended Brock University from 94 to 99. During his time at Brock, Danes became a 5-time OUAA champion and 4-time CIAU champion, helping lead Brock to 5 provincial championships and 5 national titles. He was named the CIAU Male Wrestler of the Year during the 1995-96 season and the Brock University Male Athlete of the Year in 1997 and 98. Colin's wrestling career extended beyond university as he represented Canada at the 1996 Atlanta Olympic Games and at the World University Championships in Iran. Over his career, Colin earned an impressive 62 gold medals, 11 silver medals, and 5 bronze medals. Colin is also an inductee of the Windsor Sports Hall of Fame as of 2011. So congratulations to Colin.
Great, Colin, and finish up where Joe left off. He also coaches a UFC fighter currently, and he coached in the fight championship. He's an exceptional athlete and has done just wonderful things through his career.
I want to encourage folks to come out on March 15th to the fundraiser for Coan Park. It's a cornhole tournament. It's a fun day. It's a St. Patty's theme, $50 for a team. You can just go to Scoreholio and sign up, or if you find me or Coan Park on your Facebook, there's a link there. As I said, it's a St. Pat's theme. There's a 50-50. There's a whole big prize table, green beverages, food, music, and I still need a partner. I'm a horrible player, but I still need a partner. So consider supporting the park with.
I hope you feel better soon, and thank you for staying with us and joining us virtually. Bylaws requiring a third and final reading. Bylaw 2420 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the February 18th regular council meeting. Moved by Councillor Guerin, supported by Deputy Mayor Shepley, to be read a third and finally passed. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Bylaws requiring a first, second, third, final reading. Bylaw to authorize an amendment to a lease agreement between the Town of Essex and the Harold House Center for office space at McGregor Community Center. Be read first, second, third time finally passed. Moved by Councillor Verbeek. That's really exciting. And Deputy Mayor Shepley, all in favor? And that's carried. Bylaw 2425 being a bylaw to amend 2404 being a bylaw to provide for the dedication of parkland or payment in lieu thereof for all development or redevelopment in the Town of Essex. Moved by Councillor Hammond, supported by Councillor Mady. Any questions? All in favor? And that's carried. Bylaw 2426 being a bylaw to name the extension of the street Ducharme Lane on the draft plan of subdivision, being to be read a first, second, third time finally passed on March 3rd. Moved by Deputy Mayor Shepley, supported by Councillor Allard. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? And that's carried. Bylaws requiring a first and second reading, bylaw 2423, being a bylaw to amend 384, being a bylaw respecting fences to be erected within the municipal limits of the town of Essex, to be read a first, second, provisionally adopted on March 3rd. Moved by Counselor Mady and Counselor Garin. Any questions? All in favor? And that's carried. Bylaw 2427, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the March 3rd regular meeting of council, to be read a first, second, and provisionally adopted on March 3rd. Moved by Deputy Mayor Shepley, supported by Counselor Hammond. Any questions? Seeing none? All in favor? Motion to adjourn. Moved by Deputy Mayor Shepley, supported by Counselor Hammond. All in favor? That's carried.